McDonald's fry.
All the creams are coming out.
This right here is mashed potato and gravy. A breadstick. Mean people will say, Stephanie, come up with some new ideas. Stephanie, stop eating the same food over and over again. Mukbang is dead. Your era is over. Come again? Okay, that just sounds like really stale fast food. Okay, here's the thing. I got a freeze dryer recently because I thought that I would start a business with Tiffany where we freeze dry stuff that we don't like to eat, but then we ended up just getting wild with it, and all we've been freeze drying our candy and eating all of it and then eating all of these fast food freeze dries. This is my first time trying this. We've got Taco Bell, McDonald's, Popeyes, and
everything is freeze dried.
This tray is Popeyes. We've got the spicy fried chicken sandwich, strawberry biscuit, the Cajun fries, ghost pepper wings, mac and cheese, mashed potatoes. This tray is Taco Bell. We've got the cinnamon delights, the nacho cheese fries, Crunchwrap Supreme, nacho taco. This is a cheesy burrito, like the quesarito. Do you know what I'm talking about? And then we've got a McDonald's chicken nugget in the middle. Don't ask questions. We've got another cheesy burrito. We've got the Chalupa Supreme. This is our Big Mac section. We've got the little Big Mac cut in half because it won't fit. And then we have chicken nuggets, McDonald's fries, Doritos tacos. These are the cinnamon twists from Taco Bell. Taco Bell Fiesta potatoes, Papa John's stuffed breadsticks, Parmesan cheese stuffed breadstick, McDonald's nugget, Big Mac sauce right here. Stephanie, don't forget. Then on this side, we've got the Papa John's. Okay, we've got the Oreo bites, the cinnamon delights. These are the cinnamon delights from Taco Bell. We've got these that are new. I've never had this before. I don't know what it's called. A paparito. I think. I could be making that up, but this is the Parmesan cheese crusted one. It's filled with some sort of, I don't know, but it's gonna get freeze dried. We've got another garlic breadstick, and then these are the pepperoncinis that I just wanted to stick in there. And then over here, we have the pepperoni pizza slices from Papa John and a regular cheese slice, and I'm waiting for my Oreo McFlurry so I can put it here. Yeah. Wow. Pizza, Oreo McFlurries. Oh.
It doesn't smell bad to me.
It kind of smells like throw up. No?
It just smells like a million foods mixed together.
Like throw uppy. Okay, if you don't know freeze-dried, it's not the same as dehydrated. You know when you get like dehydrated jerky, it's very chewy. Freeze-dried makes everything so fucking crispy. Its vacuum sucks like your mom. All the water out of these food items, and they're gonna taste like chips. I'm so excited. But first, can you guys believe I'm getting married? Like this very mature person sitting in front of you right now is gonna get married, and I am. Outside of these mukbangs, I'm trying to get that wedding glow. I know, it's wild. We're getting married in like a month. Even if you're not getting married this summer, good for you. Save me. You're still probably getting excited about all those summer parties. And the first step to having fun is eating good. There's 2 levels of eating good. You want to eat well so you have energy for the summer. You feel excited. You've got a belly full of yummy food so you can run a mile. But you also want to eat well to reach all of your summer goals. And now those 2 can be the same thing. HelloFresh is perfect for getting wedding and summer ready. They've got delicious, calorie smart and protein smart lunch and dinner options, as well as vegan recipes. You get farm to table quality with every HelloFresh box, and I love their use of seasonal ingredients that are just picked at like peak ripeness. They travel from the farm to your doorstep in less than 7 days for a fresh flavor in every single bite. I realize that when I don't exactly know what I'm gonna eat for dinner that day, I end up either making really bad food decisions, like freeze drying all the fast food, or I end up not even liking what I'm eating. Like it just doesn't hit, and then I feel so unsatisfied. HelloFresh makes it so easy. They will deliver these mouthwatering chef-curated recipes with fresh ingredients straight to your door. You can use it for parties. They have a bratwurst bar with caramelized onions and this like a Dijonnaise slaw. Oh, get out of here. They even do snack boards. They have over 40 weekly recipes to choose from, and you have the options to please even the pickiest of eaters. And the recipes are foolproof, so quick and easy, it's convenient, and with all the wedding planning, the last thing I wanna do is go to the grocery store. So make sure you go to HelloFresh.com and use code BIS16 at checkout for 16 free meals plus free shipping. That's HelloFresh.com and use code BIS16 at checkout for 16 free meals plus free shipping. And thank you HelloFresh for sponsoring today's video. And let's get into the food.
The most important thing for today's food?
Yes.
is water.
Oh yeah.
Because everything is dry.
Oh yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna start with like a chicken nugget.
Really? I was gonna. Okay, fine. I'll start with.
So here's a chicken nugget. You think? Can I see your chicken nugget?
Can I crack it?
Yeah.
Oh. Okay.
Okay, ready?
You know what it tastes like?
It tastes like salty crackers.
Yeah. It actually tastes healthy. I know it's not healthy. I'm sure it has like the same nutritional compounds as what it was before, but
The flavor is simple.
yes, it tastes like a healthy Whole Foods chicken flavored chip or something. Okay, let me try the fried chicken, no?
There's a French fry.
Okay, this just looks like a regular fried chicken. I don't know if my brain is gonna comprehend this.
Can I see the inside? Oh my god, that's so cool. How is it?
Phenomenal.
Really?
Oh.
Why is it phenomenal?
If you are someone that likes an extra crispy fried chicken sandwich, the spice, this is the ghost pepper wing from, what you call that place? Popeyes? The flavor is so intense. The chicken taste is still there.
You know, it's not like dry or anything. It's dry, but it's not weird.
It's so good. Wow. I'm gonna try a wing instead of a drumstick.
That's crazy. Hey, should we do this for the party? This might be a hit.
I think so. We should freeze dry a couple of these and just mix them in with the regular.
So obviously, I think fresh chicken, like fresh out of the oil, is the best. But then after a while, it gets less crunchy. But this, it keeps in the crunchy.
And the flavor. Okay, so
The flavor.
The McDonald's chicken nugget became a simple flavor. This one became more complex. This feels like a high-end chicken all of a sudden. Yeah, but you know what I'm really excited about? Okay, let me show you the layers. So this is the McDonald's Big Mac. You can see the pickles. Here, let me try a piece of It's like eating paper. A pickle.
Pickle chip?
Oh, the pickle is good.
Chip?
Oh, the pickle is good.
Make pickle chips?
We should make pickle chips. Okay, a little beef. Here's what I thought about while I was setting this up, and my fiance thinks I'm stupid. Okay, as a cute little prank, I would obviously tell him it's a prank after. What if I freeze-dried a McDonald's burger and I brought it back to McDonald's and I said, guys, you guys just sold me this burger, I'm very confused. And then they'd be like, I'm very confused. And then we would be confused, then I'd be like, just kidding, I freeze-dried it. And he said, that's really dumb. They don't want to put up with your shit. And I said, okay.
She said, let me buy this, bring it home, spend 48 hours, freeze drive everything, take it out, go over there, order another thing, switch it out, go inside. Huh, you got pranked.
And they'd all be standing there like, we do not get paid enough for this. Okay, let's try it.
What's the vibe?
You know, sparkling water is water with lemon whispers. This is a crunchy chip with a whisper of a Big Mac. It's like a very faint taste. I'm not sure why.
Oh, this is like powder.
Yeah, okay,
Oh
let
my
me try
God.
the pizza.
Oh my god, this is powder.
Oh, the pepperonis?
So far, fried chicken is the best.
Pizza's really good too. Wow. Oh, honey! Fiesta potatoes.
Pizza is good.
These Fiesta potatoes?
Pizza
They're like-
is really good.
Elevated chips. If I saw that at a party, I'd be like, this is so fancy.
You gotta try the Taco Bell. I think people want to see Taco Bell.
We've got lettuce,
What does
cheese.
lettuce turn into now?
Yeah, it's not the crunchiest, but it's paper. It's definitely a little crunchy. If it was thicker, it'd be very crunchy. So we've got lettuce, cheese. This is the nachos with the beef. Okay.
Finally crunchy. Is it good?
It's kind of goofy because I feel like that's how it should taste.
What?
They should freeze dry their taco shells. Maybe not the inside, but freeze dried taco shells should be a thing.
No. It's crunchy.
But it's dry.
As soon as you put stuff in there, it absorbs water. And it turns soft.
I'm such an idiot. Okay, I like it. This one, I was like, wait, when did they put like little Spam pieces inside of the chalupa? Am I losing my mind? These are diced tomatoes. Wow. Here, try a tomato. It's perfect. It doesn't even have a tomato smell. This is the sour cream here that's gotten really crispy. And on this side, you can see the beef. I can't even break it. It's gonna snap in half, okay?
Man.
I'm gonna try the sour cream side.
What?
It's funky fresh.
This is the Taco Bell,
Cinnabon delight.
it's busting open for some reason.
McDonald's fry.
All the creams are coming out.
Okay.
How are you eating?
A burrito.
Oh my god, these buns are so good.
They're good?
So good. Eat those.
Okay.
Dessert.
Wait, but you don't want to try this first before you eat the dessert? Whew. Burrito's fun. It's crunchy. I think I like the burrito more than the chalupa. This right here is mashed potato and gravy from Popeyes. Should you be alarmed? This feels like astronaut food. It's like eating Sophie's throw up. I like that.
I want to try that.
Okay, this is a Papa John's a breadstick. This is like a teeth killer.
That's weird.
Mac and cheese? Okay.
Gosh.
Okay, last bite. Oreo McFlurry. This is I'm excited about.
Oh, that's ice cream.
The Oreo McFlurry is perfect. It almost has like a baby food consistency, but in the best way possible. And this is really fucking with my brain because my brain is expecting a lot of these like warm. I feel like I know these flavors, but
That's good, right? This and the fried chicken and the pizza are my top 3.
oh my god. Okay, well if we like the fried chicken, before we get to the story, look at these pickles. I'm gonna take off some of the bun because it's really crunchy. 1 bun, 1 chicken.
How is it?
It's like zombie apocalypse food. This is like what I imagine. I'm in a bunker, one of those apocalypse TikTokers. I love them, okay?
See, look how everything looks like it's yummy.
Everything looks normal. My brain is having such a hard time
No.
right now. Last one. This papadilla. No. This strawberry biscuit from Popeyes. That is all the rage right now. Not as good as the Cinnabon Delight, but it's good. It's not bad. Okay, this is the papadillo, and then we're gonna get into it.
The biscuit is actually good. What the hell?
This is better than the pizza. But you know, this tastes like dog food. Let me explain. You know those bacon bits that you use to feed your dogs? And maybe some of you guys feed the dogs? I didn't know, but my dog is allergic to bacon bits. Like the actual dog snack. Do you know what I'm talking about? It looks like fake bacon. This tastes like a dog snack that's bacon flavored. There's no other way to describe it. This is what I imagine Mango and Tiger eat when we give them a bacon flavored treat. Why is that?
Yeah, because it's not human grade, yeah. It doesn't taste like human food, yeah. You know, apparently food like this lasts forever, right?
Yeah.
What if we save these?
For the future generations of
Yes.
archaeologists.
Oh my god, can I have one? That looks fun.
I think you should be careful. If you inhale it wrong, I think you're gonna be coughing for like 30 minutes straight.
I don't know. Oh, it's like leather. Spicy
yummy?
leather. It's actually good. It's like jerky.
The French fries, they're very yummy. Do you think you could survive being stranded on an island for 7 years? Stranded on a tropical island off the coast of Japan for 7 years. Can you do it?
Like, is there people?
Yeah, there's people.
Oh.
Yeah.
So there's a whole, what's, like,
No.
everything? Wi-Fi?
No Wi-Fi.
Uber Eats?
No houses, no Wi-Fi, no shelter,
So what's there?
no bathroom. It's like an active volcano. There's a lot of coconut trees, a lot of
Okay.
animals,
Oh, okay.
a lot of humidity.
Are you there?
Perhaps.
If you're there, then I don't want to be there.
Why did you want to be there? Huh? Why don't you want to be there? Should you or should you not drink your pee if you have nothing else to drink? If you're dying of dehydration, do you or do you not drink your pee?
No.
Fine, you're alive. I was gonna say you're dead. Apparently it's a myth. You should not be drinking your pee. Hey, you're trying to warm up. Do you or do you not drink alcohol?
No.
This motherfucker's trying to outlive us all. It's actually a myth that drinking alcohol warms up your body. In fact, it lowers your core temperature in the long run. You need to drink hot coffee or hot tea, and you should. Do you or do you not take your clothes off if you're stranded in the heat? You're sweating up a storm. Do you take off your clothes?
No.
The common sense a lot of people have, including myself, is that you take off your clothes because it's so hot and it's uncomfortable to be walking around in sweat-drenched clothes. But apparently the sweat trapped in your clothes helps your body keep cool. But if you take it off, it just evaporates and you're gonna be a lobster in the sun. Anyway, so the question of survival is up in the air, but what if I add a few more elements to this question, okay? Pretend you identify as a woman. Do you think you can survive on a deserted tropical island with 32 strange men? Not family members, not friends, not coworkers, not companions, complete fucking strange men on a deserted island. But you guys all speak the same language. Not that it matters.
Is there any other people?
Nope.
Or just
one woman,
and
32 men. Can you do it? You are the lone woman. What if I told you you would
For
get
how
paid
long?
7 years?
7 years?
You get paid $1 billion. Life-changing money. They could kill you though, you don't know.
Yeah, exactly. So what are you going to do with the money?
Okay.
It's like traumatizing.
What do you think happens? Doesn't this sound like a social experiment, like the Stanford prison experiment?
Yeah.
What do you think happens? How do you keep enough trust in 32 strange men to keep it civilized for 7 full years? How do you survive? And you don't suddenly become like a black belt punching skills of an MMA fighter. You are just you on an island with 32 men. Or if you had to, what's your strategy? Do you single out the alpha male of the group as the woman of the group, the only woman of the group, and do you try to attach to that person for your survival? Do you go for the alpha male, or do you go, and I use alpha male, or do you go for the person that you just genuinely like? What's your survival mind game? I mean, this sounds like the world's most up social experiment, but it actually happened. This is a real story, and it takes place off a tiny little tropical island off the coast of Japan. It's mainly a giant volcano, this island. Some space that's not part of the active volcano, and then a volcano. It's south of Japan near where Guam and Saipan are. My dad just went to Guam. It's really cool. The hotel that they stayed at, they said that when you order room service, it takes like 4 hours for you to get your meal. And they were like, what? Hold on, listen, okay? They were thinking, why does it take 4 hours to get room service? What's going on?
Get the food?
They said it's made to order fish, fresh fish. So they get the order, they go out and they fish fresh fish, and they serve it to you. So this is nearby, and it's an island called Anatahan, where 1 woman and 32 men were stranded for 7 years. This is what happened. Now, here's a little bit of context. The US could have saved this woman from all this trauma for 7 years. Literally, the US, the United States, found out about this woman and the 32 men stranded, castawayed on this island about 6 months into them being stranded, but they did nothing. So this is when World War II hit. The US and Japan, they've got really bad beef. They do not like each other. So what do we do when we don't like someone? We send the f***ing troops. The US sends a bunch of troops to invade all the little islands off the coast of Japan that Japan had previously occupied. And one of the American military planes crashes onto Anatahan Island. Every single American troop in that plane had passed away, had perished. And this is the island where the 32 men and 1 woman is. So the US hires a bunch of local native, like indigenous islanders to go to this island because they know the terrain, and they're like, hey, we need to see if any of our troops are alive that crashed in that plane. Yeah. They go to that island and they come running back and they're like, listen, they're all dead, but this is the most fucking wild shit that's going on over there. There was a colony over there of people, 32 men and a woman. Their ships have sunken. We saw them. There was 2 ships like sinking in the water near the shore, and they're just stranded there.
But these people went there and left. so they could go there.
Yeah, and the US is like, oh my God. And this is during war times where storytelling thrives, okay? The story passes from one soldier to the next, and each time it gets wilder. They're Japanese, but they wanted to start their own little cult, basically. Another soldier was like, no, I heard that woman basically looks like Aphrodite, the Japanese version of the Greek goddess. She was able to seduce these 32 men, invite them to her little island, and now she lays there, and they put grapes down, and she just eats the grapes. They pamper her, they fan her, they do everything for her, they dance in front of her. All 32 men basically serve her. I heard she's actually married to one of those men, but he likes to watch her, do it with her other boyfriends. It's like her own little harem. Oh, I heard she's so pretty. One look at her and you want to drop everything and move to that island. These rumors keep coming out and they get crazier and crazier and crazier. Some people basically equated her as being some sort of siren, like these mythical creatures where you hear her voice, you see the way her hair flows, and you lose your mind, you lose everything. You ditch your wife, you ditch your kids, you ditch your life, and you move to this island to be entranced by this woman. This is what the US soldiers were talking about. The rumors were out of control, simply out of control, right? But the narrative was there's a cuckold on the island that had 32 men, all for her pleasure. Obviously, the American government was just going to be like, oh my God, what a wild story. Let's just let them be. But they did not invade or save the stranded people for a few reasons. The island didn't have any resources the military wanted. The island's main production was coconuts. So unless I guess you're going to shoot them through a cannon. They didn't care for coconuts. And there were also reports that the stranded group had no firearms. So they're like, what kind of trouble can they cause anyway? So they were wrong. The rumors were wrong. The government was wrong. The woman did not have all these men eating out of her hands. In fact, every waking second on this island was dangerous for this woman. She was in danger of being R-worded and murdered every second that she was there. And the group did have firearms. So what the fork, US military? By the time that they left the island, 11 of them were dead. Her name was Kazuko Higa. Let's call her by the name Kiko, nicknamed Kiko. And for 7 years, she was forced to play mind games to stay alive. And it ultimately resulted in some of the most twisted love triangles. It's weird. And they tried to murder her at one point, so... Anyway, Kiko was originally from Japan, but she moved to Anatahan Island to be with her husband. Kiko was married to a man named Chiro, and Chiro was like the head overseer of the coconut plantation. So Anatahan Island is just coconuts everywhere. In fact, it is the only coconut plantation on the entire island. So sometimes you go to a different island and they have different plantations that are owned by other people. But this was the only coconut plantation, and this is the only thing on the island. So Kiko and her husband were the only two Japanese people there. Now, there were indigenous people that were employed by their coconut plantation. There was about 45 of them. So on this entire island, there were 47 people originally. The numbers dwindle down, and she's actually not stranded on the island with the indigenous people. Yeah, she gets stranded with soldiers. I don't know if, it's crazy. So it's like a teeny tiny little dot in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. It's got a length of, I think, like 5.6 miles and a width of 2.5 miles. And most of it is a giant volcano that you're avoiding. So it's tiny, but it's like not the worst, right? Kiko goes, and obviously she's lonely. She's got no friends, no family to talk to. She has no interpersonal relationships anymore outside of her husband, but it's fine. I mean, the 45 people, she originally thought that she could be friends with the indigenous people. But no, they didn't really like her because most of them were forced laborers. Yeah, so there were lots of tensions. And on top of that, Japan was really going through like their villain era during World War II, you know what I mean? Kiko wasn't allowed to talk to any of the indigenous people. Socializing with them was not good. They were all men, and even if one of them tried to talk to Kiko, even platonically, even to ask, hey, can I get a Band-Aid? They would be dragged in front of all the other indigenous workers and beaten by her husband. Jeez. It was his way of sending a very strong message that his wife was off limits because technically she was the only other woman on the island. So yeah, Most of the islanders would slowly start leaving the island though, because the war starts getting really bad. World War II starts getting bad. And these indigenous people, they've got families in other neighboring islands like the island of Saipan and Guam, which are known to be a lot bigger, right? Eventually, numbers dwindle down. Then it's just Kiko, her husband Chiro, and maybe like 1 or 2 of the islanders. Now, side note, Kiko is in her late 20s when all of this goes down. And initially, they're newlyweds that are having a freaking blast. They're living off the land. They've got mangoes for days, coconuts for days. And it's not like they're doing actual labor on the coconut plantation. They're just like perusing around, taking a dip in the ocean. Kiko learns to stay busy. She would sew clothes out of giant banana leaves. She would cook for them. She would get a tan. Sometimes she would resent her husband for leaving her so isolated on this island. But, at the end of the day, they were kind of in love. They would go into their little hut and they would cuddle and fall asleep. And she genuinely really liked this guy. And she was, not what you imagine. She was kind of a firecracker. That's what people said. It's not like she came to this island and just completely submitted to her husband. She's tiny. She's like 4'10", but she's got this big, very strong personality. So June 12th, 1944, something very strange happens. Kiko feels a shift in the energy. She's on this island. She's like doing everything she normally does, right? She's looking at the reflection of herself in a picture frame. They don't have mirrors. They just have a picture frame. She's looking at herself, fixing her hair, when her husband walks in and she slams down the picture frame so he doesn't see. What's going on? Okay, strange. And he's very rushed. He's like, Kiko, my love, you gotta stay in here and you have to stay quiet. Promise me you're gonna stay in here until I come back for you. You cannot go outside. Promise me right now. What? What's going on? And he cuts her off. Promise me right now, I'm gonna be back soon. And he rushes out of there. Kiko is so confused. This never happens on the island. Okay, yes, there is a full-on world war going on. And yes, they know about this war, but to them it's not that important because, are you kidding? You think world powers are gonna fight over this tiny little coconut island? It's not even a speck on their radar. It's not in danger of being invaded or blown up. Literally, nothing's gonna happen. They're the safest. They're more safer here than in Japan, mainland Japan, or anywhere. So, okay, is it that? No, maybe the volcano erupted, she's thinking. But if the volcano
erupted, stay here,
yeah.
okay? You stay.
I'm gonna go into the water and let people know that you're dead, okay? So she's like, well, no, it's not the volcano. That doesn't make sense. And she's so curious. She had never seen this guy rush like this before. The biggest danger on this island is like, I guess, being bonked on the head by a coconut, which is pretty deadly. You could die from it. But it just doesn't happen. So she's very confused. She tries to sit there for like a minute or two, but it's like tickling the back of her brain. What could it be? What could it be? What could it be? I mean, for crying out loud, what could it be? So she slowly peeks out the little hut, and then she's thinking, you know what? I'll be fucking damned if I move to an island with my husband for his stupid work, and he's sitting here thinking that I'm just gonna listen to what he tells me to do? No. And then a darker thought hit her. Oh my God. Maybe one of the remaining workers fell off a coconut tree. So she's like, okay, you know what? If an emergency happens, I'm smarter and faster than my husband, so he's gonna need me. She throws on her robe, sneaks out of the hut, and starts making her way to the shore. The shore is where everything happens. Like, I'm telling you, most of it is a volcano. There's really nothing else, right? And holy shit, she's hiding between the trees, and she's like, is that a ship that is sinking? There is a ship that's actively sinking, and she could see soldiers like frantically swimming ashore. She could also see soldiers that were not swimming ashore and were just bobbing in the waves, dead.
Hey,
yeah.
This does sound like
Cersei? Yes, it sounds like Cersei. I was thinking that was
right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, it sounds like Cersei.
And then these men will turn into pigs.
Yeah, what's new, right? It happens in reality. So these bodies are just bobbing in an unnatural pattern. Some men had intestines spilling out of their uniforms, courtesy of the United States military. Another man had a hole blasted straight through his chest. Others were in various stages of death. Definitely not natural death, just like painful, bloody, nasty death. And Kiko's pretty badass. She didn't even scream. Frankly, she was unfazed. She just thought to herself, well, war is ugly. She scans the scene and she spots her husband, and she's thinking, okay, well, it's very easy to tell. He's shirtless and the coconuts gave him a little bit of a belly, and he's also 5'6". Now, She's looking. And she realizes that this man is having full-on conversations with these people, so she's thinking they've got to be full Japanese because we only know Japanese. Then it must be soldiers. It must not be enemy soldiers. It must be our Japanese soldiers. Suddenly, she's becoming very patriotic. She's like, well, then I got to take them in. I got to do something. I got to help my husband. We got to protect these people before the Japanese Navy comes to rescue them. So without hesitation, she gets closer and closer, and she starts spying from the tree line in the jungle. And the soldiers eventually start dragging their dead comrades to the shore, sprinkling sand over them, and they just look devastated. It just looked really rough, and she felt a lot of sympathy. She decided that she was going to head back to the hut before she thought about what to do next. She's waiting, she's pacing, waiting for Chiro to get back, and the minute that he steps in, she pounces. Who are those men? Are those Japanese soldiers? He literally just walked in the hut. He's like, I told you not to go outside. What the hell is wrong with you? And she's like, well, are they Japanese soldiers? Answer the question or not. Their boats have been destroyed by the US and they need to stay here until the Japanese Navy rescues them. You have to trust me and stay inside. Do not come outside. Understand? Okay. Jeez.
So does he think those soldiers are dangerous, you think? Is that why, or?
So it is a pretty common thing that soldiers in the war haven't seen women in years, which is scary. So, and he's like, and put on some more clothes. And he literally storms out of there. And listen, she was shocked because Chiro almost never got mad. She forgot that he was capable of being this aggressive. But all it did was piss her off. She's like, why the f*** are you yelling at me? Did I sink their f***ing boat? So she puts on her robe and she goes outside. And she follows Chiro. And I think the thinking is, I think in 2023, we're a little bit different in thinking, but back then you wanted to help your troops, You're like, no, men are not going to do that to me. They're our troops. They represent our good country. Ta-da! Now with all the true crime podcasts, we can't do that. But she walks outside and she eyes the men from afar and she's studying each of their faces, counting how many of them are. And one of them looked really badly injured. Well, a few of them did. How could they even be injured from their boat sinking? She did not know that the US had attacked them that badly. Like, she thought it was from the boat sinking people got injured and died. Yeah, all these thoughts are going through her mind when she notices all the men freeze and it gets deadly silent. And they're staring at her.
Wow, that is something.
All 18 men. You're like, wait, I thought there's 32. Another shipwreck is going to happen, don't worry. They're all staring at her. So her husband, Chiro, beelines it to her, grabs her by the arm, drags her back inside the hut. What did I tell you? I told you to stay in here. It was too late. Everyone already knew that there was a woman on the island, presumably Chiro's wife, that he conveniently forgot to tell everyone about. Also, that looks bad on him. Like, okay, you lied that you were alone in this hut. I mean, I guess nobody could blame him, though. I'm pretty sure all 18 of these soldiers would have done the same exact thing, but it's just awkward. So from then on, whenever Chiro went out, Kika would follow. She never actually interacted with the men, at least not initially. But she did stand on the side and kind of linger. And you have to think about it. I know people are going to be like, well, I would never do that. I would have just stayed in the hut. Chiro was looking out for her. Think about you've had nothing happen in your life for years. For years, you haven't had an interpersonal relationship. Do you know how important interpersonal relationships are? People become depressed. Like, I'm talking chronic depression because they don't have good interpersonal relationships. She just, I don't know. She had to. Curiosity got the better of her. So she's studying them, watching them. And most of the time when she looked at one of the men, they would just stare back at her. But this one man, he never looked at her, never even glanced at her. He did have a big bloody bandage around his knee, so maybe he was too sick to look at her, but I don't know, there was just something about him that she was like, intriguing guy. So the next morning, Kika wakes up to a chaotic scene. There are soldiers running down to the shore. She throws a robe on and runs out, scans the crowd for Coconut Chiro. That's the new nickname she gave her husband.
Seriously?
Because he always felt like she was never wearing enough around the soldiers. And she said, well, if anyone's going to wear a coconut bra for the soldiers, it'll be you. Because he's like really into the soldiers. She's like, let me help the soldiers. She's like, look at you. You're the one wearing a coconut bra for the soldiers, not me.
Wait, she calls him what?
Coconut Chiro.
Coconut Chiro?
Yeah. So, yeah. Anyway, She hoped that he got bonked on the head with a coconut, that kind of sentiment. Wow. So she starts running about and she's spying, and the soldiers had doubled. There were 32 now, including Chiro, because the US had shot down another ship nearby and it sank and they floated all the way here. They washed ashore. This time, Kiko did not want to go through the whole awkward hiding, not hiding, so she just very confidently introduced herself. And all 31 men were staring at her because they hadn't seen a girl in years. One of the men, the leader, Junzo, his back was erect like a pole. Attention, fallen! Half the men followed the one from his boat. He's from the second boat. He's the commander of the second boat. The first boat, people are like, what the is that? In formation now! Okay, so technically Junzo was the highest ranking officer on the island in terms of Japanese rankings, not in terms of like island survivor rankings. So every day he wanted the troops to stand at attention in formation and salute to the northern area to the Japanese Imperial Palace. And everyone was like, you are goofy. We're dying on an island right now.
Wait, so are they following or no?
Only his boat people are. Only his comrades,
Okay,
yeah. And then the other half are like, the is going on? Especially because he was very, very young. So a lot of people, and the whole 7 years, he washed his uniform. And this I think is like really cool. He washed his uniform and washed his hat and wore it every day. Yeah, I'm gonna cry. Yeah, but they just made fun of him because he's like a kid who takes his job too seriously.
Wow.
Yeah, he wore it every single day. He would salute to the Imperial Palace for like 5 years after the war was over.
Every day for 5 years.
Yeah. If that sounds admirable, don't be excited. This guy would later sell Kiko to new husbands. Yeah, she was sold like stock. So Kiko noticed now with the new group, there was a wide range of people. Some were older, some were middle-aged, some were super young, like barely adults. And you can easily tell which ones were military men and which ones were drafted in because of the war. Like they had varying levels of fitness. Like there were some go-getter military men that were super buff and like really like hard, like I'm surviving. We're gonna make a fire in a hut right here. And then you had 18-year-olds that were like, guys, when do you think they're gonna come? Like today? Because I can't wipe my hole with another poison ivy one. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, it's very two different groups of people. Now, everything happens in phases. That's how I categorized it when I was researching it. Phase 1 is the act normal phase. Everyone on the island is behaving as they would anywhere else, as civilized human beings. Yes, they were behaving as if they were in the middle of Tokyo, albeit they're in the woods and climbing trees to eat coconuts, but very normal stuff. All of them respected societal manners and norms. Everything was, excuse me, oh, can you pass the coconut, please? Soldiers sat around discussing their plans together of wondering when the Navy was going to come pick them up. They all treated Chiro and Kiko like the lovely host, if anything. If anything, the guys went out of their way to ignore the shit out of Kiko. That's phase 1. It's very interesting, but they were going through a Saturdays are for the boys phase. They were going through a, we're too busy with our boy boss shit. We're talking about a war, Kiko, so you can go over there. If Chiro was like, oh, I gotta go, it's like nightfall, I gotta go be with my wife. They're like, oh, the old ball and chain, hang out with us. We're plotting how to take down the US right now in the sand. It's like very much Saturdays are for the boys, and Kiko was completely left out. None of them even wanted her around. They even found a way to ferment coconuts and make coconut wine so they would all just get drunk every night, literally every night, because there's nothing else for them to do while they waited for their eventual rescue. But I guess nobody would tell them that Japan was kind of busy right now. Very busy right now. That was phase 1. Phase 2 initiates when Chiro starts tearing down his own coconut house. This is so crazy human psychology. This is where I have to ask you, honey. If I am the only woman and there's 31 men that join us.
Bro, don't ask me these questions, man. Like,
do you think eventually
how would I know?
Your anxiety and stuff would start getting to you? Do you think it's human nature? I guess is more of the question.
Human nature of what?
I don't know. I'm not excusing his behavior, but Chiro definitely gets weird. So phase 2, there's all these men around, and Chiro starts getting very, I don't know if it's anxious or insecure or jealous or something, but he starts becoming uber possessive over Kiko.
Yeah, sure, yeah, absolutely.
If she even looks at a soldier, he will beat her up.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Wait, absolutely what?
No, I think that's super like human nature, yes.
We're not excusing his behavior, by the way.
But totally, I can see that.
You can see it happening.
Yeah.
Like, you don't condone it. Just
I don't condone it. I'm just saying, like, when you were watching the show, a bunch of women and a guy, or a bunch of guys and a woman, what is that
The
called?
Bachelor, Bachelorette.
Yes. That to me is the same thing. Like, if you throw them on the street, nobody will behave that way over one guy or one girl. But because of there's this comparison, there's like little society, there's these games of I want to win ahead of the other party, or I want to appear this and that. It turned into a whole small like economy or society that everyone just acts so differently.
Yeah, it's not a normal human behavior.
But it's definitely weird when you throw into that environment, So he got super jealous.
The reason we say it like that is because we always watch these shows together. And I'm like, you think if I was on that show, I would act like that for a dude? And he's like, even if you don't like the dude, I feel like there's definitely psychology.
Yes.
Where every human becomes a victim to it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's hard to hate on these reality stars and TV people, right? Anyway, he starts getting very aggressive with her, just tearing down his own relationship, his own marriage, which is doing the opposite of what he wants, which is pushing Kiko towards other people. Kiko would just go about her normal daily routine, and Chiro would come home drunk off of coconut wine and just start being aggressive with her, asking if she stared at anyone, if she talked to any of the soldiers. I mean, she literally started to hate her husband. She actually wished that he wouldn't come to the hut at night because he was so abusive. All she did was take out that little picture frame and stare at the picture and think about the good old days of how things used to be. Things had completely deteriorated, and things would never go back. Phase 2 was their house crumbling, in every sense. And then phase 3 struck. Kiko and the soldiers start to interact. She has now been pushed, because of her husband's abusive behavior, to find companionship in some of these other men. And literally like everyone else in the world, Kiko needs companionship. And these were men that had lives before the war. They had interesting stories and dreams to tell Kiko. And it just was lighting up her brain to hear something different. So she would talk to these men. And one of the men that would be one of her only friends on the island was the injured soldier that never looked at her in the beginning. His name is Yama. That was his nickname. And he just had this like big goofy grin that would come out once in a while. He kind of gives me tortured artist vibes without being cringy. So he had been shot in the leg when the US bombed their boat. And he fought off the blood loss, fought off the infection, stayed alive. And even his life before the war was fascinating. He was a musician. But like one of those jazzy, somber musicians that sang those like ballads. And he was drafted. He actually learned to play string instruments. And he told her that under his master, the love of Yama's life was the master's wife, his music teacher's wife. They started an affair.
Whoa.
I know. And now he has so much time to think about it. That's the love of his life, but he feels so much hatred for himself for doing that to his master.
Dang. Wow.
Kiko was eating it up. I was eating it up. I'm like, tell me more. Yeah, and the master was gravely ill, so they basically hooked up on his deathbed.
Oh.
Really crazy. Really crazy. So the two start getting to know each other, but anytime Chiro was around, she would have to look the other way. Kiko was smart enough to know how to distance herself from Yama when Chiro was around. And like this, 6 months crawl by inch, second by second. They all felt like they were collectively losing their shit. Kiko should have been fine. She had been used to this island, but the stress of her husband becoming increasingly violent was weighing on her. And as for Chiro, he was fully addicted to coconut wine. Like, he's becoming a full-blown alcoholic. And he seemed to have this constant fear that Kiko was going to leave him, and he would just watch her like a hawk. It was intense. And then 6 months into this, another phase hits. Another kind of wreck rocks the island. An American military jet crashes onto the island. They could feel the ground shaking. They heard a whoo and a crash. They saw black smoke emanating from inside the jungle. So they ran over to the side of the crash. Kiko was trailing behind. She wasn't as fast as them. She saw as the men, without even a moment of silence, start walking up toward that plane and tearing it up. They find pots and pans in there. They find knives. They find all sorts of weapons in there. I mean, I guess it is an enemy plane overall, but They were climbing up over pieces of trees and metal to just loot the plane, wrapping trinkets and banana leaves. And Kiko begged her husband to get the parachutes that were tangled to the dead American soldiers' bodies in the trees so that she could make clothing out of the parachutes because it's like wet proof. So he brings it down for her, and all these men were like, Kiko, cover your eyes, don't look, they're dead. She's like, get out of here. War is ugly. I don't care. Yeah, she was ballsy. She was like, okay, they're dead, but I need their parachutes. So this is when the Americans are aware that there's 32 men and a woman trapped on the island. And I mean, geographically speaking, they always knew that this island existed, but they never cared for it because when it comes to war, you can't care for every square footage of your enemy's territory. You just go for the big parts. And it's smack dab in the middle of water. It's not like a strategic point for the Japanese armies either. So they didn't really care. And when they found out people were there, they just genuinely thought it was a cult that lost their minds. The US kind of felt shocked by the scandalous news. They were like, wow, that's scandalous. Even for World War II, that's kind of crazy. But, we got other things to do. And in about 6 or 7 months from this, 1 year into their castaway experience on the island, World War II ends. The war ends. The American troops stationed nearby on the neighboring islands, they're like, okay, we're gonna go back to America now. Goodbye. They completely forgot about the 33 castaways that were stranded on the nearby island. They were just excited to go back home. So they hightail it out of there. They go rejoin their families in America, and only a few military officials stay behind to ensure that Saipan, one of the bigger islands, remains under American control and does not get taken over by the Japanese again. Now, this is crazy. One of these men is a U.S. Navy captain by the name of James B. Johnson, and he never forgot the 33 castaways. He heard rumors, but he's not a little gossipy girl, okay? He's like, I don't think it's a sex cult. Pretty sure they're just stranded there. And he's thinking, 1 woman, 32 men? No, this is a male fantasy of oh, she's a seductress. But in reality, every woman is going to be fucking terrified and bricks. There's not a single woman that'd be like, that's my dream. In fact, every single woman would be like, that's my horror nightmare. And he had a wife, Eloise, and he's like, okay, if that happened to my wife, holy shit. So he's like, I'm gonna rescue the castaways. And he wanted to do it the right way. The US Navy was like, go in there, drag them out by the hair, and be like, hey, guess what? Japan surrendered, so go back home. Yeah, but Captain Johnson was like, I have seen what the Japanese troops are like. I just fought in a war. A lot of these soldiers would rather off themselves than surrender. And I'm not trying to have 33 people die on my watch after a war is over. So he flies a few planes over the island and drops pamphlets that say, hey, the war is over. These are some news from Japanese news, media. And guys, you can come out. We're going to give you a free ride to Japan. So anyway, please, we'll be waiting nearby on a ship watching. Just wave a white flag. So we'll be on the lookout for a white flag. Okay, bye. Captain Johnson watches from a massive U.S. ship nearby, and not a single person comes out. The castaways, they saw the pamphlets. They were like, the U.S. needs to stop playing their little mind games. And they threw it away.
Dude, this is the case you talked about.
Yeah.
There's a guy who hit on a...
For years, decades.
Yeah, just like this.
Uh-huh.
They don't believe the war is over.
But it's inconceivable but very admirable. That level of dedication and belief in something, I feel is hard to come by these days. I know it's heartbreaking, but it is very admirable in a lot of aspects. So periodically, he would go back and do the same thing with more pamphlets, and his commanders were getting upset with him, just go in there with force. But he's like, absolutely not. He actually waited 6 years to go through with this mission. He called it Operation Removal, and it was a very special project to him. He had no idea that the next phase in the island had already been initiated, though. The next phase being murder and court. It had been nearly 2 years since the sailors had shipwrecked. The men had gotten worse. All signs of civilization, well, I don't want to say all signs, they're still human, but societal norms were kind of shedding slowly, one by one. And these men were becoming angry, volatile, especially Junzo. He was getting very, very power hungry. And when the pamphlets dropped, he was the one that convinced everyone absolutely not.
Junzo is...
The captain, the leader.
Oh, the younger guy. Okay.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. A couple of the soldiers had passed from illnesses. The tensions got worse. And Kiko, she had finished her daily tasks for the day, and she was hanging out with Yama in the jungle. Oh yeah, when they just heard this like chaos. It was like this weird, like screaming, shouting, and it just didn't happen. So they were stunned. They got up and they ran back towards the hut and where all of their little tents were. By the way, Yama and Kiko never got romantic. They were just close friends, and I'm sure there was some sort of tension, but Yama was like, really, I have to be with my master's wife. Like, I cannot betray her. I've already betrayed my master. If I betray her, I'm like the worst person alive. They run back over, and they see these soldiers beating up Chiro, and one of the other soldiers is like really upset, and they're holding up that picture frame from the beginning of the story, remember? They're accusing Chiro that Kiko is not his wife.
Wait, what?
And it is true. Chiro is not her husband. She actually came to this island because of a man named Shoichi Higa. That's the one on the picture. That is her husband. They got married. He got a job at the coconut plantation under Chiro. So the three of them were the only Japanese people on the island. And then her husband S had to go to Saipan when the war started. So when the war started, his sister was living in Saipan. And he's thinking, okay, well, if my sister stays there, that's like a hub for Americans. They're going to come in there and invade. So I need to bring her to Anatahan because it's so much safer. He's like, babe, it's going to be a short boat trip over there and a boat trip back. He never made it back.
Wow.
And now she is stranded because it's war times. It's not like easy for her to get off this island. And where would she go? It's literally a wartime right now. So she's staying on this island, and eventually out of... I don't know if it's love, but probably more so companionship and safety, she ends up with Chiro. They were never legally married though. So when these soldiers find these pictures, they're very, very upset. Very upset. So I think after years of being on this island, the idea, the societal concept of dating was not a thing anymore, and they only respected the very firm concept of marriage. So they said, if this was your wife, we would have respected your marriage, but instead, you are hiding her from the rest of us. Basically saying, technically, we could have all tried to suit her, we could have all tried to date her, and then she can choose one of us, but you have been keeping her to yourself. This guy was becoming fully unhinged. I mean, this group of soldiers were becoming fully unhinged at this point.
Bro, this is something.
It's terrifying, no?
Yeah.
Yama is one of the few soldiers that tries to prevent and break up the fight. He's like, guys, it really doesn't freaking matter if they're married or not. Like, literally, they're dating, so respect it. What is wrong with you? But that one soldier that's very upset grabs the gun and fires it twice at Chiro, killing him. That would be the first murder on the island.
There's gun on the island.
2 pistols.
So whoever has the gun pretty much has power, right? Who has the gun?
I don't know. I think they were putting it like in a safe place for, I'm sure, because it was easily accessible for him. I don't think he had the gun. I'm imagining they put it in a known location to everyone and made it like a no one gets to keep the gun type of thing, where you only take the gun to go hunting. So the other soldiers, they wanted to beat up Chiro and date Kiko, but they didn't want to murder the guy. So they dragged him away. Chiro was a civilian. He wasn't even military. It wasn't even wartime. He wasn't a casualty of war. He wasn't even armed. This soldier literally killed an innocent Japanese man. What did they do? They held a trial on the island.
Oh, for the killer?
They had a judge, they had a jury, and the other soldiers decided that he should be put to death. Now, he was told that he should do the seppuku, which is the ritualistic Japanese taking of your own, unaliving of yourself. But he couldn't do it, so another soldier stepped in and stabbed him to death, which was the second murder on the island. A total of 11 men would die before they were rescued. And we don't know how these other men died, but we have now entered our new phase. Single Kiko phase. Remember the head of the other boat? The most high-ranking man in terms of the military? Well, he decided that he was the alpha male, the top dog of the group. And most people kind of went with it. For whatever reason, and since Kiko was his responsibility, literally he thought that. I didn't think that. He's thinking that. He started selling Kiko as a wife. If someone did something good, he would let that person marry Kiko. Now, Kiko was being traded around by these men as their wives. People make it seem like Kiko played these men to somehow stay alive, and she did to a degree, but she was in danger. Her life was in danger. Not because of the island, not because of the environment or Mother Nature, not exposure, not the war. These men were her danger. They were her potential killers and also her potential saviors. So why is she being seen as this mastermind game player? They were willing to kill, fight, and destroy what's going on in this island for a woman's attention and affection. And I don't know about you, but that kind of sounds like emotional and hysterical to me. I'm just saying. That kind of sounds like you're not fit to run a Fortune 500 company. Anyway, meanwhile, Kiko is just trying to survive while every moment on this island is a threat to her life and dignity. Like, who is the real soldier here on this island? So the next phase, the terrifying phase, is the free-for-all phase. Kiko was married multiple times on the island. Why? I mean, they don't really believe in divorce, or at the time, or at least this little group of people didn't. I'm not pointing fingers, but each time her husband would mysteriously die.
Wow.
Whether by drowning in the ocean, being lost in the jungle, infection, illness. Her sixth husband would, I think he was alive, yeah. But she was married multiple times. It felt like they all wanted to be the last one standing right next to Kiko. I mean, this island was disintegrating into some sort of weird primal survival type dating show, but not even cute, just basic survival for Kiko. And I don't want anyone to be like, well, men are just wired that way. We can't help our biology. Go in the woods and wipe your crack with the leaf, you giant skid mark. Literally, that argument is supposed to make it seem like men are so manly, we can't fight the animal in us. That is not something to brag about. Do you know what people call that? Simple caveman brain. You're just not as evolved, and that's not a good thing. So yeah, no, none of these men were biologically, primitively driven to murder each other and potentially R-word a woman on the island. Literally, it's not a flex. The men were staring at her like she was Aphrodite, the Greek goddess, coming out of the ocean to bless them. And when she did not bless them, they started to get a little bit violent. She was no longer human, she was an object of desire. And the young soldiers, they started to see her as a mom. They had mommy issues. The older soldiers, she reminded them of their desires before the war. Even if they had wives, daughters, family back home, they didn't care if they wanted her. And you think that because she's married to someone that she gets protected by that person? Absolutely not. Kiko said all of these husbands she was sold off to, basically, they hated her. They treated her like a burden. They yelled at her. They did despicable things to her until they wanted something from her. They treated her like she was a burden that they had to take care of until the moment they wanted something for her. So yeah, I mean, her life on Anatahan was miserable. And eventually, at around the 7-year mark, they all started plotting her murder. I'm so angry. So a lot of these men, I don't want to say all of them because some of them were on Kiko's side, but a lot of these men decided, okay guys, all of her husbands keep dying. And we keep fighting with each other for her affection and attention. And we all want to sleep with her, right? And it's annoying. Okay, you were my bro before this, but now we're fighting over her. So we have to kill her so we can be bros again. That's literally what they did. They're like, we gotta kill her. They said that she was more trouble than she was worth. She doesn't even want to be here. They basically tortured her for 7 years straight and then decided, oh my God, boys, she's breaking up our friendship. We gotta kill her. A few of the men did not agree with this. They were terrified, so they actually warned Kiko what was about to happen. She fled in the middle of the night and grabbed a tiny little white fabric, ran out towards the shore, and started waving it nonstop. Thankfully, around this time, while these men were straight up hunting her, they would hunt her through the island to kill her. It's like literally one of those crazy, scary movies. And finally, Captain Johnson was so committed, he happened to be nearby. He was also traveling by boat very frequently.
What?
So he passed, saw the white flag, swooped in,
You're
saved not only Kiko, but the rest of the castaways. A lot of them, yeah, a lot of them actually came out too.
So she saved them?
Yeah. Some of them, I think a few of them held out another year. But eventually. And the only reason they came back was, and I don't know why they didn't think of this before, but they were able to track down the family members of the castaways and write letters. So the family members, and then they would fly a plane and drop the letters. And he had, Captain Johnson had heard so many things about Kiko. He just wanted to see who this woman was. And he had a lot of compassion. He did not want to see because he was like, ooh, who's the woman in charge of the cult? He just like genuinely was curious. She was just so small. That's what his first impression was. And it's like very scary because she was so tiny, like 4'10". And the idea that she survived on this island with all these men. It's said that Captain Johnson's wife, Mrs. Johnson, so she doesn't speak Japanese and Kiko doesn't speak English. She said as a woman, you could tell that Kiko went through a lot. Like you don't even have to communicate. As a woman, you could look into her eyes and you would see that time on the island was probably the scariest thing that a woman could ever experience just by looking at her eyes. Unfortunately, the Johnsons were the very few that sympathized with Kiko. Everyone just wanted to see the queen of Anatahan, who ruled over her harem of soldiers. Japanese media twisted her story and advertised it as a crazed tabloid headliner. Yeah, they called her the Queen Bee, and a lot of these mainstream media news outlets were confused how she could captivate so many men when she was, and I quote, not particularly outstanding or beautiful. The Johnsons' heart broke. They fought so long to get Kiko out of there, and they couldn't even protect her from the evil press. So everyone was shocked by this story, and then they got over it. Yeah, that was it. They just got over it. And Kiko was kind of forgotten about. I mean, the aftermath is really sad. Yama, one of the survivors, would write the only autobiography of the years at Anatahan. And Captain Johnson also worked with a writer before he passed to share this story, but most of the public moved on. Kiko found it hard to... everything was hard. Everyone considered her basically a whore for literally surviving on an island with 32 men. And the 32 men didn't even get... They were like, men are wired. It's primitive to want to biologically procreate. No, you're just an R-worder if you think that, okay? Yeah, everyone just considered her a whore. She had depression, PTSD. Again, there were no outright allegations that she was essayed on that island, but we can only imagine. In the end, she moved back to Okinawa, her hometown, and she ran into a very familiar face. Her first husband, Shoichi Higa. Look, I don't know where this guy had been. I don't know if he got drafted into the army and couldn't...
Are you kidding me?
But they fell back in love. So I'm assuming he had a really good reason. I'm assuming maybe he got drafted or he was taken as a prisoner by America. I don't know. But he better have a good reason. But they fell back in love, and they were each other's first and last love.
What?
But Kiko died at just 51 years old. Eloise, Mrs. Johnson, actually kept in touch with Kiko through a translator for most of their lives, and she was just devastated to hear that Kiko was depressed and not doing well. That is the very crazy story of what happened on that island. And, it's hard because... It's hard to tell what is almost... The story has almost become an urban legend at this point. A lot of people don't believe that it actually happened. It did happen. There's a movie on it, and a lot of it is highly fictionalized too. So, it's really hard to say exactly what events, but I tried to keep it as close to the autobiography from Yama as possible. But it's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
So no one will truly ever know what really, really happened on that island, because I don't even think Yama would want to write about everything that happened there. What are your thoughts? And how would you survive being trapped on an island for 7 years if you were the only female identifying person surrounded by 32 male identifying people? What would you do? I would shoot bricks. And with peace and love, I'd be like, I hope they're okay. Okay? Because I'm gonna die. But I hope you guys enjoyed today's story, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye.